welcome into Boston has entered the chat. If you love this show, first of all, we love you back. And thanks for rolling with us. But also check out Hold My Banner on NESN as well. Ante Campbell and I break down all the NBA and, of course, everything Celtics. Check it out. Hold My Banner is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else you already get your podcast. All right, here we go. Boston has entered the chat. And you know what this sound is, don't you? Bracket time. Where's your bracket, bro?
I got it right here. Not filled out yet.
It's a sound effect.
Need those first 4 games, you know.
First 4 starts tonight in Dayton.
I know the one I can check off is Texas Xavier. Xavier's winning that one.
Oh, it's automatic.
Yeah, Texas shouldn't even be in that, bro.
You're such a Big East dude, bro.
Well, it's not. No, it's not even at Xavier. It could be Texas playing against the Holy School of the Matrimony down the road in Wakefield. I wouldn't care. Texas is going to lose that.
How do I get in that school?
No offense to the players at Texas. It's
no offense.
I got a slight against the head coach.
Yeah, I see that.
That's all it is. Bro.
I see that. Well, coming up,
Don't do this.
I know.
Don't, come on.
Horns down.
If that's you as a head coach, your team will always flake in a big tournament.
Oh.
If this
that offends you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just if it makes you lose your composure.
Yeah.
What is your team going to do? All right, I'm done. That's my Texas.
Okay, well, March Madness is upon us, clearly, as you see
tell.
how we start the show, right? By the way, we'll go through both the men's bracket, George has his, and the women's bracket. John Fanta will join us on that as well. Plus the Bengals, how can I say this? I would say they're reinventing how you show love to wide receivers. We'll explain all that. Cha-ching, spoiler alert. And wideouts aren't the only ones getting paid in the NFL. So are the cornerbacks. But what does this mean for Christian Gonzalez's future? We'll talk about that as well. Remember, Boston has entered the chat. I always say this. We're interactive. We need to hear from you. So tweet at us using that hashtag at the bottom of your screen, NESN Chat. You can also email us at chat@nesn.com. But let's jump in to what we're here for, my friend. You said you haven't figured it out yet.
No, I haven't even filled
Let's
one.
do it together. I mean, look, as we look at the men's bracket first, let's go through snubs. Let's go through surprise teams, teams to watch, Cinderellas, Final Four, the whole shebang-a-bang. If you're watching us, here's that graphic. Here's that beautiful bracket looking at you right in the face on the screen. So as you sort of look at this, George.
Yeah.
You want to go sort of teams to watch maybe as you just sort of take a glance at this thing? Who jumps out?
Right away, you know I've been big on them all year long.
Yeah.
But the team to watch for me is Maryland and the Crab Five. I know they got upset in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
Lost a lot of money for me betting that tournament. Didn't go my way. But when you look at the Crab Five, Queen, Gillespie, Rice, Reese, Miguel, 3 of those 5 can shoot. All 5 can defend. And the 2 others are big, can rebound, and can win inside. And when you have Kevin Willard as a head coach, got to know that guy really well.
That's right.
He was a head coach of my alma mater, Seton Hall. And what he did to take over a program that was in such just like below ground zero pretty much of what the prior leader did to that program, build it up, get him to winning the Big East, let alone get into the tournament. But he was always a guy that the resources at Maryland's what he needed. When it comes to facilities, now in this world of NIL, like he's in the right spot. But in a one-off single elimination tournament, half to half, you won't find a coach that makes as many adjustments and is in game, especially defensively, is bought in. And something that is a outlier in this team, which you never got, but has always been an issue, they hit free throws.
Yeah, they do.
So they make it at the charity stripe. They hit it from deep. They can defend. They're top 30 in both metrics in the Ken Palm. They just check all the boxes. I just really like Maryland for the outfit they have as a team, how deep they are. And they just got so many shot creators. And when you just look at it, this is a team that will run into Florida at some point. And that's going to be a really tough beat. But I'm not worried about them against Grand Canyon. I'm not worried about them against Memphis for sure.
Okay.
And let's say if it is on the other end, UConn or Oklahoma pulls off a big upset. They just match up so well. I really like Maryland when I'm looking at this bracket.
Well, you know, I love hearing you say that as someone who grew up down there and covered the Terps for a great part of my career. All those Gary Williams coached Terps teams, and even hearing you say this team plays the right way, they hit free throws, are good late in the game. That harkens back to that time period. So kudos to your guy from Seton Hall for getting him there. In Willard, they're talking about a big contract extension for him down there as well. I think they will. He's done a great job.
He will never leave.
Well, and also, George, that's a program with a great tradition.
Yes.
So if you get it right with the coach, which they've struggled with since Gary has retired, now you get Willard in there, and it looks like they're headed in the right direction. What I like about them, they're a complete team. I think I have them in my Sweet 16 as I look at my bracket. I do. I have them actually losing to Florida. And, I mean, no shame in that. I think Florida can win this whole thing. More on that in a minute. Here's my teams to watch. It's not exactly breaking news. But usually I'm the guy making fun of 1 seeds. As I look at my bracket this year, with no real true dominant juggernaut kind of teams, I like all these 1 seeds. Auburn, Florida, Houston. I think all these teams.
The chalk man.
Yeah. Well, this year I am.
I get you.
Generally, I'm not. This year, I am impressed with these 1 seeds. I think Auburn, Florida, and Houston could all win it. Wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
Duke is good enough to win it. I just question Cooper Flagg's health.
Yeah.
If he's not healthy, although I saw them punk UNC 3 times this year, and in that last one, they didn't have Coop, and they still punked UNC. It's one of the reasons I like the Aztecs tonight. You're welcome for my gamblers. But I think Duke could get it done depending on his health. But I am impressed with all the 1 seeds. Auburn, complete team. Florida, complete team. Houston, generally a defensive team, struggles at times on the offensive end. This year, they're still a defensive team that struggles at times on the offensive end, but they are better this year offensively than years past. Houston, I'm talking about. So that's a team that I could see it. So I am impressed with the ones, although we all know, we have all been around March Madness long enough. We have all filled out enough brackets to know over the years it never quite ends up that way. Sometimes it does. Most of the time it does not. So I don't see 1 seeds getting all the way through. I'll give you 1 Cinderella. And I've already told you this. I watched this team during the CAA tournament. UNC Wilmington is the real deal.
Yeah.
And I walked away from – they won the CAA tournament. I walked away from that tournament thinking – depending on their bracket, I may ride them to a Sweet 16 or something like that. I'm looking at this, brother. Generally speaking, a 14 seed will knock off a 3 seed. I think they're going to get that done here. I like them to go. How far do I have them? I have them in the Sweet 16, losing to St. John's. I think UNC Wilmington, as I looked into them more after the CAA tournament, I realized they're an experienced team, senior-laden team. Teams like that always fare well. Give me UNC Wilmington as a Cinderella in this.
Yeah, and that's a team, too, that has the offense.
Yeah.
And what the tough part, the Johnnies defend really well. They have 2 really good guards. One of those guys being Kadari Richmond, but they can't shoot. But a team like UNC Wilmington with Newby, with Montgomery as well, the guys that are leading them in minutes, leading them in scoring, if you can just hit your shots, we've seen it, if you can shoot but still score on the inside, and they have the depth there with Kamari McGriff as well as a big man. If you force St. John's to have to beat you from 3, then you're in a good spot. They're big, they're long, they play really tough.
Yeah.
It's a Rick Pitino coach team, so it's going to be tough to overdo that. But I see the UNC Wilmington. You know who my team is in all of this.
Well, you've been on Drake. Yeah.
Bennett Sturts, Daniel Abreu, Tavion Banks, Mitch Muscari. And when they first drew Missouri to open up the tournament, I go, man, that's tough.
That's tough.
Yeah, but Mark Mitchell hurt his knee, and he was a DNP in the last game of the season for Missouri. He's not going to be 100%. But this is a team in Drake that can defend, can shoot, can score, and they play at the slowest pace in the nation. Wow. That will make you press, not literally on the court, but start pressing whenever you have the ball of, I need to score quick, I need to go now, because I'm not going to touch this ball for another 2 minutes. That's what Drake does so well. They put the pressure on their opponent, and they play their game. And it's also the size they have. Sturts is 6'4", Abreu 6'6", Tavion Banks 6'8", Mitch Muscari is 6'5", and then Sturts, Abreu, and Muscari can all shoot from 3 as well. They just do it so well. You watch his team play. You're going to hate the slow pace. Some people.
Yeah.
They're going to play the half-court game, but it is the beauty of basketball. It's the fundamentals, and they're always composed. And these are guys, and the head coach, Ben McCollum, dominated Division II basketball for over 10 years, was very picky with the job he wanted to take. He could have D1 job after D1 job after D1 job, but he wanted to make sure he went to the right situation. Drake is that. They've run through the Missouri Valley. In his first year there, he took them to be conference champions. They beat Missouri. Really tough on the other end being Texas Tech. McCaslin's a great head coach. Tech's always a really good team. But for Drake to be in the Elite Eight, I wouldn't be shocked.
By the way, bro, I do hate slow, half-court, methodical basketball during the regular season. When we get to this time of year, I appreciate teams like that because styles make fights, right? And so some teams are helter-skelter. They want to get up and run.
Yeah.
Some teams want to slow it down and go half-court. And I love watching it unfold, George.
Just think of the West region. Maryland, Missouri, Drake, Texas Tech, St. John's. Kansas is soft.
My guys, UNC, Wilmington's in there.
Florida's in there too. Oklahoma, always well coached. UConn, it's Dan Hurley.
Yeah.
They're going to make noise. It's not like they'll get bounced in the first.
Good region.
That's a really tough one. The one I do like, Houston, you mentioned them. They got two really good guards that are shot creators now. They're always going to defend. But LJ Cryer, Manuel Sharp, really good shooters, shot creators, and makers. But that region, man, the Midwest.
UCLA's out there.
Yeah, Clemson's
Tennessee,
good.
Yep.
Yeah, Illinois is good. Yeah, Kentucky's good. Yeah, Tennessee's good. But that's like, where Houston's going to be in the Final Four.
You think so?
If I had to circle one number one seed, if I had to circle one team and I go, they're going to make it to the Final Four, it's Houston for me.
Wow.
You know what you get with Kelvin Sampson. They're going to be one of the best defensive teams in the country every year. The difference is this year with Cryer and Sharp, they've shot creators and makers.
Okay.
Because it comes down to the tournament. When it gets tight, you need a guy to give the ball to, and you know he's going to make stuff happen.
Baller.
They have two of those dudes. And you know what they're going to do on the other end. They're going to suffocate and drown you.
Well, you know.
They're coming out of the Midwest.
Just talking about our brackets here, buddy. I've noticed a couple opportunities for some in-show betting just amongst brethren. First of all, let's start with our upsets because we both like Cinderellas in the same region. So you know what that means. Only one slipper may fit. So George told you he likes Drake over Mizzou. If you're right, and I told you I like UNC Wilmington over Texas Tech, so that 14 over a 3 upset. And if I'm right, we'll go head-to-head right there, my friend. So that presents itself for an in-show bet. We can talk about that when we get there.
Oh, okay.
If we get there.
Yeah.
The other one you said that jumped out to me, because you're right about everything with Houston, but I want to go back. I told you I'm impressed with all these 1 seeds for once in my life. However, I just couldn't bring myself to pick all 1s and 2s in the Final Four. I have some upsets.
Yeah.
I have Houston losing in the Elite Eight to UCLA. Now, as you know, being married to a Bruin, I watch a lot of UCLA. Their scoring worries me, but I think stylistically they're very similar to Houston.
Yeah.
So I went UCLA in a rock fight to advance to the Final Four. So we may, if we get there, my friend.
Kelvin Sampson against Mick Cronin.
Bro, there's some great coaching matchups in this tournament as well. All right, let's just cut to the chase. Let's go Final Four, because I couldn't go all the way chalk, even though I'm impressed with these teams. On one side of my bracket, in the South and the West, I did go chalk. Auburn and Florida. The SEC was so damn good this year.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen this a bunch in college football and college basketball in the past, where there's a dominant conference, and you're like, there's no way this conference doesn't do great in the college football playoffs or in March Madness, and then they lay an egg. I don't know if it happens this year. The SEC was so good, but it could. So what I did in my mind was I just went the best SEC teams I watched from wire to wire. I left Tennessee out because they always choke, and Auburn and Florida is where I went. 2 complete teams, well-coached teams that could win this whole thing. So I'll go Auburn and Florida in a chalk side. On the other side, I wanted to roll the dice. I've been telling you, you've been talking about Drake all year. I'll give you that credit. I told you I've watched this BYU team go on the road all season.
Such an interesting team.
Such an interesting team. I think BYU is a team that could catch fire. And remember, Alabama, going back to SEC, Alabama's a team you can't trust because they don't play defense.
Yep.
BYU plays defense.
Yeah.
BYU's tough. BYU's not intimidated by anyone. You also have potentially a hobbled Cooper Flag, okay? I think BYU knocks off Duke in the Elite Eight and Bama in the Sweet 16 and gets to the Final Four. So I have Auburn, Florida, BYU, and UCLA. I have UCLA knocking off Houston. So I didn't go chalk on that side.
Dude, you have a 6, a 7, and 2 1s.
In the East and the Midwest, I have complete chaos.
Yeah.
In the South and the West, I have chalk.
That East, like, depending what you get with Duke, depending what you get Cooper Flag, that East region is so up in the air.
It's wide open.
So I have Auburn coming out of the South. I have Maryland coming out of the West.
Oh!
And it's going to be tough to beat Florida, but I have Maryland coming out of the West.
Woo!
Houston out of the Midwest, so I have 2 1s and a 4. Nothing crazy
Nothing
there.
crazy.
And Maryland's really good. They just lost at the wrong time. That East I always come across, and I just can't do it.
You don't hate
Alabama
BYU, do you?
can't defend. I don't hate
You
BYU.
don't hate BYU.
They can keep up with Bama, and they can stop them. Bama can keep up with BYU, but they can't buy stops.
BYU could be Cinderella.
I know.
They could.
I'm going to go Wisconsin coming out of the
I don't
East,
hate 'em.
a 3 seed. John Tanji, 5th, 6th-year player, really good shooter. Like, I hate the comp, but you watch him play and you go, that's Klay Thompson, but more of off the dribble than a catch and shoot type. Greg Gard has been around the block.
Yeah.
He's been a long-time coach. He is good when he has the right team. Tanji's a guy that can drive it, and they're deep and they can score. And they're always going to play hard.
What coach do you trust the most in this field? Is it Bruce Pearl's time? Is it Sampson's time? Do you feel like, I know it sounds crazy to say he's underrated, but is there some of you that kind of feels like some of these guys are underrated in terms of, is Calipari underrated?
Oh, man.
Like, as you sort of just look at the whole field.
Yeah.
Because you're a coach guy, especially this time of year. Is it Izzo, who hasn't won anything in forever, but everyone still says you got to watch an Izzo team in March?
It would be so poetic if Tom Izzo, like year 30 at Michigan State, leads them. It's just they're in the Auburn bracket.
Yeah.
What Michigan State does so well is how hard they play. It's just a bunch of Izzo guys on that team.
Yeah.
Sounds so cliche, but that's what you need this time of year. But if I go with a coach that I trust, I'm going to go Kelvin Sampson in this whole tournament.
Okay.
And it's him just improving himself and not just playing defense. He's going out and I need guys that can score.
You have them winning it all?
I could see Houston winning it all, cutting down the nets.
All right.
It's either them or Auburn that I feel best with.
Yeah,
and
I think
coaches are Houston's path
is
so much smoother to get to the Final Four.
Both of those coaches are due. I wonder if Pitino...
I think even Houston, they'll get Duke to get into the... Like, that's what it faces for them, so...
I wonder if Pitino's being a bit undervalued, but I have St. John's going far.
They don't shoot.
I was going to say, I'm with you
shoot.
offensively. I have them in the Elite Eight, though.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I have Florida and UCLA in my title game. Man, I think in the end, Florida's so complete. I'm going to go Florida. The only thing I hate, though, they're kind of the trendy pick. And once you get into the trendy picks, you never know how that can go. By the way, we have more hoops talk on Hold My Banner, NESN's basketball show, but we're going NBA there. The NBA season's almost over. The Celtics have already clinched their playoff spot, looking to repeat as champs, but will they? Find out everything about the NBA and its culture on NESN's basketball podcast, Hold My Banner. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else podcasts are found. All right, now before all this madness begun, George, we caught up with your boy John Fanta, who is just the oracle for college basketball. He laid out a ton of things for us, but one of them was what it takes to be a champion, championship makeup, and who he likes to win this whole shebang-a-bang. Take a listen.
When you're just looking at your tournament, what are the boxes you need checked in a way of, cool, they have a 1 seed. Sure, they're a 4. But what are the boxes you need checked, John, that you go, this is the team I'm going to ride with?
Do they have 3 or 4 guys who can get into double figures? Because if they're over-relying on 1 or 2, I have some trust issues at times with the team, right? I don't point to the three-point line all the time. I don't. I think it's important with an Alabama that you limit their threes, because if you don't, you will lose. You will lose. But there are some teams, Tennessee and St. John's being 2 of them, who I have a high degree of trust with, but they're not perimeter shooting teams. So then what do I check off? All right? How do they rebound the basketball? You got to be able to rebound, because if you can get extra opportunities, it could be the difference in you winning or losing the game. Right? Where do you score defensive efficiency-wise? I would prefer you be in the top 60. There have been a couple of Final Four teams the last couple of years, Miami now a couple of years ago, Alabama last year, who have hovered around the top 100, top 110. When I'm looking at a team, I need them to be good enough defensively to hang in, to not get lost and just give up both rebounds and buckets. And then I think I got to look at a team and say, are you too reliant on 1 or 2 players? Or do you truly have 3 or 4 options? Notice I didn't say 6 or 7. I don't believe it. At the end of the day, Jay Wright won a national championship in 2018 with 6 guys.
Yep.
Right? Connecticut last year, like, yeah, they had a bench, but if you look at their starting five, those guys rarely came off the floor because they were so special.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have NBA players to win it. You'd like to have one or two. But to me, when I look at a roster, I got to see 3 or 4 guys that can be able to score it for you. Because what you don't want is dead weight offensively.
Right.
If I can scout, and the 3 of us are looking at a team, and we say, you know what, you could play off him. You know, if he's the one that's beating us, it just wasn't our day. You don't want to have that on your team. You want to have 4 or 5 guys that at any time can get you a bucket. And when you look at the top of the country, you know, the teams that we listed, like, that's why Duke's so dangerous. It's not just Cooper Flag. Texas Tech is a real dark horse. Why? J.T. Toppin is fantastic. Elijah Hawkins, Chance McMillan, when fully healthy, they're cooking. Iowa State, better than last year when they were in Boston. Why? They're better offensively than they were last year. Last year, if you held down their top scorer or two and you said make somebody else beat you, they didn't have that. This year, they've got Curtis Jones, Keyshawn Gilbert, Milan Momcilovic. They went out and got Josh Jefferson from St. Mary's. You have to have multiple threats on the offensive end of the floor. I'm not saying you have to be top 5 in efficiency, top 10 in efficiency. I'm not that demanding. But if you look at it, when there's a dark horse, like Ole Miss could still be a dark horse because they have offensive balance. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin. You know why Wisconsin's been damn good? Because they got 4 or 5 guys that can go out and get double figures.
Finally.
Yep.
Yep. It finally is right.
For Greg Gard. You list all that out. What about Maryland? Can defend. Mm-hmm. What do they have? Gillespie, Rice, Miguel, who can all shoot, but also Kevin Willard, who you and I know very well. That's a guy that makes adjustments. He comes prepared. They're actually making shots from the free throw line. They can defend. They've shot creators and guys that get hit from 3. What do you think of Maryland?
I think Maryland's back, and I think that they could be a second weekend team, if not further. And honestly, I think they should expect to make the Sweet 16. Like, that should now be a normal expectation for this team. Whether you have to raise the bar. And Maryland is a big brand in college basketball. It's been a while since we talked about this team. But Kevin Willard went to Maryland because he felt like he could potentially contend for a national title at Maryland more than he could at his previous stop at Seton Hall, our alma mater. But at the same time, look, he went to a brand in college basketball, just like you see Louisville back there. Like, for Maryland, what are the standards? Well, the standards are being met by a team that's very balanced. Mm-hmm. You just said it. Jacoby Gillespie is a lead guard. He transferred him from Belmont, but he was ready to level up. Derek Queen, stud, man. Like, that kid is an NBA player. I think he's a top 10 prospect in the NBA draft. They have that NBA player. Julian Reese is there. He's just a stout, big man who's tough and hard-nosed and gets after it and gets after you defensively. They guard. You know, when you look at the metrics, and I'm into it, they're top 30 in offense, but they're top 15 in defense. They really lock you down defensively. They make you uncomfortable when you run your stuff. They can turn you over, and if they turn you over and are making threes, you could lose by 15 or 20 points. They're a tough team. They are not the deepest team, but I already told you guys, when you say I've got tons of depth, here's my thing. Do you have 5 guys who can go out and compete with the other 5 steadily?
Right.
They present that challenge. And when Rodney Rice and Selden Miguel are in rhythm from downtown, that offense is as tough to defend as any because they have an equal amount of perimeter threats as they do to front court players.
Well, John, listen, you're speaking my language with the Terps because that's the area of the country I grew up in. I'm from the ACC country when it was Duke against Maryland, not all this Big Ten nonsense. I know you and George are Big East guys, but I was an ACC kid, and because of that, I'm going to ask you about Duke because my hatred for them runs deep. But I got to admit, I mean, this team is legit. Obviously, I'm going to ask you about the team, and then the second part of my question is about their leader, Cooper Flag, because the team is very impressive to me, but I wonder how good is Cooper Flag? I mean, are we talking all-time greatness here in college basketball? Like, talk to me about how great of a player he is, and then tell me if this Duke team is for real.
We should be talking about Cooper Flag all day, every day.
Wow.
Because he doesn't have the persona of the, love to hate Duke villain, and because his name, doesn't have the ring necessarily of a Zion or a LeBron. I think that as a result, maybe the PR machine hasn't taken off. And it also gets coupled with the fact that in November, when we're all buzzing with college hoops, at first they lost to Kentucky and they lost to Kansas in late game situations in which Flagg, if you remember, fell late in those games and had some turnovers. Can you see? Now he's with New Balance. Mm-hmm. He's not with Nike. But can you see the start of the ad? I think of a Nike ad when I think of this, but for the sake of argument, I'll say New Balance or whatever ad. Okay. Can you see the ad, gentlemen, of him in November coming off the floor dejected and having the fall to the rise of climbing a ladder and cutting down the nets?
Mm-hmm.
And saying, doubt it then, here now.
He's a marketing man. Like John, multifaceted, the man of many expertise. Like, just love that.
I can see that. I just hate that it's in a Duke uni, but I can see it. Go ahead, George.
So John, why are you young coaching a freshman? Like, why do you buy into them? And I get it. Like you said, metrics, they're top 5 offense and defense. Why? Why can they do it? Why can Flagg? Why can Shire do it?
Because of how they constructed the roster. So they went out and they said, we're going to get Sion James, who's this bulldog guard. He's a tough you-know-what. Like, he just gets up in you, and he plays hard-nosed basketball. They went out and got Mason Gillis. Does he average 10 points a game? No. But he played at Purdue. He's been in a national title game. His voice matters in that locker room. Tyrese Proctor, when healthy, veteran guard, playmaker, shot maker. They know who the point guard is. Mm-hmm. You got to know who your lead guard is. These teams where it's like 2 or 3 guys, like, you got to get everybody organized. Con Knipple, shot maker, flamethrower, ultra competitor, Common Malawak, tough rim protector who plays like a vet. This freshman class coming in, we knew that they were going to be tough, man. Like, we knew that they were going to be, that this group was going to be talented. Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey are very talented. It just didn't work out. You know why? Rutgers didn't build their roster right around those guys. Shire built this roster really, really well. He has the money to do it.
Yeah.
He had the money to say, I'm going to give you this. I want to, Mason Gillis, you're not going to be the main guy. Are you okay? Like, do you want to win a title? Mason Gillis said, yeah, I do. Sion James said, yeah, I do. And those guys serve as calming presences in the midst of the presence of Flagg. They're tough, man. They guard at a really high level. I thought that they were so disruptive to Illinois. Illinois, who rolled over the weekend. They made, honestly, one of the surprising statements of the weekend by going to Michigan and beating them by 20. But Michigan's not disruptive the way that Duke is. Duke gets up in you. They want to turn you over. And if they do turn you over and they get out in transition, if they make any threes, like if they lose a game in the tournament, I predict right now it will be because they made only like 4, 5, or 6 threes. If this team is making at least 8 threes and they defend the way they've been defending, there's no way that they're going to lose a game in the NCAA tournament. But that's why we play the games, right?
Yeah.
Like, basketball, funny game. They can lose. And you're right, George. I think my answer would be, though, Shire has matured in this job. He's in year 3 now.
Yeah.
Cooper Flagg's one of the most mature kids I've ever covered, ever. He doesn't let any of the noise get to him. He's all about, like, the team and winning. The guy doesn't go home for holiday breaks. He stays with the guys that are from other countries and celebrates with them. This guy's different, man. Like, doesn't do a lot of media. You can't get him for one-on-ones. But you know what? That's part of him. Like, he doesn't want all the attention. He wants to frickin' win. And I do think that there's something to be said. This is big picture in sports, right? Similar to how UConn moved the needle nationally. I'm always looking at a guy like, what moves the needle nationally? You know what moves the needle? If John Shire wins a national championship, you know what's going to be brought up. He's in year 3. He could be the Duke coach for the next 30-some-odd years. All right, he's got 1. How many could he get? How good could he be? Right. Is he the next Mike Krzyzewski? They have all the money. They have all the recruiting. Coach K had a great career, but the last couple of years of it, I think you guys would admit, like, it was done. You know, it was time. Shire just has this refreshing vibe, and I think he's the man for the job.
John, I'm not saying this is a winning strategy, but you know as well as I do that a lot of people fill out their brackets based on conferences. Now, we have to wait and see what the matchups are, but from where I'm sitting, I'm looking at the standings right now. I mean, between Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, who you mentioned, Bama, I know you don't trust them, but they're up there, Tennessee, Ole Miss. I mean, the SEC, from where I'm sitting, feels like the best conference in America. What would you say is the best?
Yeah, every Crimson Tide fan's going to say you don't trust them. I like them a lot. You can't. If I like everybody the same, then I'm not really doing my job. So I still think Alabama's a good team. I just don't know if they're a national championship team. And again, probably eat my words on this, but I don't trust them all the way on the defensive end of the floor in their style. The SEC is the best conference in the sport, and it's the best conference we've ever seen. Collectively, they could send 13 teams to the NCAA tournament. The most we've ever seen is 11 with the Big East in 2011. This conference is absurd. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely absurd. It's otherworldly. I don't think we've ever seen anything like it. It is just crazy how good it is. And there's so many teams, guys, that could cut down the nets from this league. Auburn can do it.
Yeah. Tennessee
can do it. Alabama can do it. I still think Kentucky's dangerous in this league. Mississippi State, I think, is a tough team in this conference. It is a wagon of a league, and I can't take my eyes off it. Oh, by the way, Florida can win it all. Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin, they're tough. They're an offensive juggernaut, and they're top 10 in KenPom offense and defense. That is legit. They're legit. They're tough. Alex Condon, Thomas Haub, they have size, they have strength, they score, they're really good. Missouri, underrated, dark horse, total team that I think is absolutely loaded. The SEC is an absolute juggernaut. It is the best league in the country by a wide margin, and it's the best league we've seen in the modern era.
Wow, I love that. I love that. It's shifting from an SEC that's jam packed with power and. Doesn't come randomly for me, and I'll explain it after you answer. But seriously, how deep of a run do you think Drake and Ben McCollum can make?
Drake?
Yeah, Drake. They can make a deep run because Bennett Sturts is an absolute stud. He's averaging 19.6 assists, 4 rebounds a game, 2 steals a game. He shoots 50% from the floor. Daniel Abreu, Mitch Muscari. When Mitch Muscari's knocking down threes, they're really dangerous. Ben McCollum was a D2 coach. He takes the Drake job. He says, I'm going to take my D2 core guys with me. They have nailed it in the Missouri Valley, showing there's a ton of great talent at the Division II level.
Yep.
A ton. Don't sleep on D2 guys that know how to shoot, pass, and dribble. Sometimes the game is simple. Coaches and people make it too hard at times. Ben McCollum's like, I'm relying on my guys that got me here. His team's been special. They are dynamic in their approach. They are extremely difficult to guard because they move without the ball. They have great ball security. They don't turn it over. They rebound. They can make threes. Drake can be in the Sweet 16. They are that kind of team. And I think they'll get an 11 or a 12 seed, provided they win the Missouri Valley tournament. They belong. And there should be consideration for them to get in at large. Just like there should be consideration for the UC San Diego Tritons on the Big West to get in at large if they don't win their conference tournament.
Wow.
I love that. The man that loves small school basketball, big school basketball. And John, I asked about McCollum and Drake. It wasn't random. You know me, fresh out of college, that my first job was covering D2 hoops. Yeah, happy you're doing it right. You know the mute button. But it was covering D2 hoops in the MIAA. And that's when I was introduced to this school, Northwest Missouri, who won 4 national championships in McCollum's last 5 seasons. So we brought those guys with them. They're going to play really slow tempo. They're going to play perfect basketball. And this is a team, I kid you not, they defend like Houston. This is like my D2 time watching them. They defend like Houston. They play the offensive game like the Golden State Warriors. It was mind-boggling. So that's why I like that you recognize everything they do right. They play their game. And I think teams that like to score and can't get stops, they're going to get under pressure. They're going to get rushed, and they're going to falter. John, we ask you all this. Who wins it all? Who do you think wins it all, man?
Ooh, boy.
Ooh.
Got to do it to you, my friend.
Yeah, I think the Auburn Tigers are a team of destiny, which might be a curveball because I was talking so highly of Duke. Janai Broome is unbelievable. He's just such a dominant force. The guard play, Chad Baker-Mazara, Miles Kelly, Denver Jones, Tahad Pettiford, electric freshman. I trust him. I think it's Bruce Pearl's time.
Yep.
This team only has 2 losses on the entire year. They only have 1 loss in the best conference we've ever seen. I know it's about who gets hot, but they've just been so dominant. They also are better defensively than they get credit for. They held Kentucky to 1 made field goal in 12 minutes in Lexington on Saturday. That is terrific defense. They guarded Mark Sears a couple weeks back in Tuscaloosa. They went into Alabama and won that game. They're tough. They're motivated. They're together. I will go with the Auburn Tigers. I know it's the top of the country. I think I'm 1 for 1 on this show because I told you UConn would cut down the nets last year.
Yep.
I'm going to try to go 2 for 2. I'm going to take Auburn.
Want the latest on the Patriots and the NFL? Drake May needs help, and we discuss how he can get it quick on NESN's football podcast, Foxborough Rush. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else podcasts are found. All right, George, our boy Fanta took Auburn. I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, both of us can see it. You
Yes.
said you thought Pearl's kind of due for it. Neither one of us picked them, but we wouldn't be shocked if they get that.
And that's the thing when you go through that whole bracket, is that this is the wide open. It's not like UConn just dominating, Duke's banged up. Now it just opens everything up. That's the magic of March Madness, man.
Facts.
Fanta, he goes to Auburn. You're like, yeah, I see it. I go with Houston. You say, yeah, I
Yeah.
see it. You go Florida or Auburn. You go, and I go, yeah, I get it.
Well, it's going to be a fun tourney, no doubt about it. All right, let's get to what's trending. 2 stories, 3 minutes each, both in the world of football. George, I mean, we need these guys' agents, clearly. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, both of them, set record paydays for wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. So Jamar Chase, 4 years, $161 million. Good Lord. T. Higgins, 4 years, $115 million. So Jamar Chase is paid.
Yeah.
T. Higgins is paid. Joe Burrow is paid.
Yep.
I have a question. Who's playing defense? Anybody playing defense at all? No? No one? Great.
And the AAV for both of them, Jamar's making just over $40 million a year.
Oh.
T. Higgins is making just under $29 million a year.
Oh.
But what the Bengals did right is they got modern in a way, because you look at the details. $112 million guaranteed for Jamar Chase. That's a guaranteed money that spreads out the length of that cap hit. So what the Bengals used to do is they would only do a signing bonus, where they used to do these contracts would be $160 million, let's say total value.
Sure.
They'd go $50 million signing bonus, rest incentive, and that's when you get hit with the cap hits. They finally got modern with how they're structuring contracts. They don't like dead money. They've always operated with the lowest dead money in the NFL. No one raises banners for lowest dead money in blank season. They
Right.
only raise banners for conference championships and for Super Bowl championships as well. And that's what they did with this, so they can still make the defense work. I think that's what's important. I also just love the wording of this, like Jamar making him the highest paid non-QB in NFL history. Yes, if you go by annual salary, but guaranteed money is a real money. That's what these guys want. Jamar Chase is right behind Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa for the 3rd highest and fully guaranteed money for a non-quarterback. He's making $112 million guaranteed. Bosa and Garrett both $122 million plus guaranteed.
Man.
But also, the one part to look at this too, we see the news of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins come out together, same agent. And that's why this was an interesting process, where they're led by, I think, Alliance Sports Management.
Okay.
They were figuring out the T money to figure out the Jamar Chase money.
Right.
And in a way, it worked out for the Bengals, because if it was separate agents, T's agent would have wanted him to reset the market, and they'd have
Sure.
to deal with Jamar somehow.
Right.
No, they did it together, where every dollar that was allocated for T, all right, how are you going to do this for Jamar? And man, dude, LSU, what they should just say is, if you come here, Joe Burrow, $275 million, Justin Jefferson, $140 million, Jamar Chase, $160 million, Derek Stingley,
Yeah.
who just got paid too,
Yeah.
extension $90 million.
That's crazy.
Come here, we're
Come
gonna get
here,
you paid.
we get you
You
paid.
get paid here, NIL, and then you
Right,
get paid
yeah,
again.
and that's a big bag at LSU for NIL too. You said the Bengals got modern with this, and
They caught up. Like, they were behind times, and I think that's what
they
important
were.
of what they did.
I think even as a franchise, they're changing the reputation that they don't pay anyone to.
They had to stop being cheap. They keep it within the family. They're not that not that liquid with cash.
Sure.
But they had to find a way to do this, and that's how it works.
Bengals are still going to bangle, though, because in the end, they're not stopping anyone. I know I'm making jokes here about defense, but that's kind of important to do to win playoff games and Super Bowls. Just saying.
Yeah.
Not saying Burrow and these receivers aren't great, but you do need to actually stop someone defensively. All right, you tease this. Derek Stingley got paid, too. He resets the cornerback market. Look at his money. 3 years, $90 million. Oh, my God. Including $89 million guaranteed. So at $30 million base value per year, Stingley is now the highest defensive paid player or defensive back in NFL history. So we continue to just reset markets. And you know what? Good for him. Good for the Texans. But I can't help but to think about Christian Gonzalez, too, because
he's going up.
Bro, when it is his time to get paid, he will reset the market just like this. And look at this. A tweet from our own George Malecki.
Yeah, for anyone listening, I just basically put on X, like, there's no better motivation for Christian Gonzalez than to play his butt off once again. And then after year 3, the Patriots will pick up his 5th-year option.
Yeah.
But before year 4, or in the middle of year 4, they will agree on extension because you get ahead of the market. And what this bar set, 3-year extension, $90 million for Derek Stingley. After we just saw another cornerback in J.C. Horn get paid, they're basically going to go, here's a 3-year extension after the 5th-year option, $110 million, $96 million fully guaranteed. And then he'll be the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. So Christian Gonzalez sees that, and he's smiling, man, because he knows as long as he stays healthy, and the injury he had his rookie year wasn't a knee, wasn't anything, just a broken bone. It happens, right? It was shoulder, actually, I believe. He just knows if I show up, keep doing what I do, continue to improve and get better, I'm going to be a $100 million man one day.
All right, let me ask you
Gotta
this.
feel nice.
I just wrote this down while we were talking. Most important positions in football. Tell me if you agree. Obviously, quarterback.
Yep.
Left tackle?
Yes.
Okay. This is where I started slowing down. I went wide receiver, but is it defensive end or is it corner? Are you okay with wide receiver at 3? For just most important in football.
I put defensive end 3.
Oh.
Because if you are not getting to the quarterback, I'm thinking defensively, if you're not getting to the quarterback, your corners can be studs.
And it doesn't matter.
But they're not going to have enough time to cover them.
Okay.
And I put that ahead of wide receiver because if your quarterback is good enough and he gets protected by his offensive line and they keep the defensive ends off of him, buy him enough time, the receivers will eventually
get open.
You need that game-breaking wide receiver, though. I'm not.
So you have receiver over corner.
Yeah.
Okay. Quarterback 1, left tackle 2, defensive end 3.
Trenches.
Then
I go wide receiver,
then
corner.
Okay.
But if you move any of those, I wouldn't argue anyway. But you need the QB and you need the protection up front.
You have to have that.
It's going to be tackle eventually. Like lefty quarterbacks are going to be more dominant. But yes, it's the bookend guys.
Okay.
Look at what the Chargers have: Herbert, Slater, Joe Alt. But that was an insane payday, bro.
If you play any of those positions, though, like you're gonna get paid.
Yes.
Because they're all honestly like nothing against tight ends. But this is what the game is. Nothing against safeties, but this is what the game has become. You have to have these in order. Quarterback, left tackle, defensive end, receiver, corner. Top 5 positions in football.
Pillar positions. They matter, and you get paid if you play them.
You know what else matters? The women's bracket for March Madness. We'll get to that in 30 seconds. Stream the entire Red Sox season with a NESN 360 annual plan. It's available at an all-new reduced price of just $20 a month, paid annually. And for a limited time, you get 4 free tickets to Fenway with your purchase. Visit NESN360.com to sign up today. All right, George, the brackets don't stop. Here I have the women's bracket as well. I mean, a ton of things jump out to both of us here, I'm sure. The first one, and I didn't love this as we look at this bracket, USC and UConn are in the same region.
I know.
Why? Like, this could be the Natty. Like, are you kidding? You're already breaking records every year for ratings and interest and ticket sales. Could we not get a juju against Page for a Natty? Instead, if we do get it, by the way, it would be in the Elite 8.
Yeah.
So that could decide it all. But South Carolina is a 1 seed again, although not the top overall seed in the tournament. I mean, this Birmingham region is insane. Texas is a 1 seed, TCU's a 2, and then Notre Dame's a 3 just in that region. That is hellacious. Who do you like in this as you look at this?
I also love that UConn, being a 2 seed,
Yeah.
they go to Spokane.
Yeah.
It's just like, why for the UConn fans, for
Every
the team
year.
too, you should be awarded, if you're a top 3 seed in your bracket, it should make sense geographically.
Yeah.
And look, UConn and Gino Auriemma are going to say, wherever we play, I don't care. It could be in a Walgreens parking lot. We're going to show up
Sure.
and we're going to be whoever's in front of us. It's just like, what is the committee doing with that? And then if you put them in Birmingham, you would get USC and UConn in the Final Four instead of the Elite Eight.
Right.
I really love this UConn team, but it's hard to bet against Juju Watkins. USC's deep. Juju Watkins is the best player in the country, in my opinion. In all basketball, she's one of the best players, period. Her offensive game is absurd. How athletic she is, how skilled she is, and what she could do to any opponent. I really like USC overall in this one. UCLA, it'd be historical for them, man. They've won Sweet 16s. They've made it to the Elite Eights, the Final Four. They've never been to that final weekend. They've never gone there. They're looking to get to the first Elite Eight, I think, since like 2018 for them.
Wow.
Number 1 overall seed. But who have their 2 losses come to? USC. It's hard to beat a team 3
course.
times in 1 year, of course.
Especially with Juju.
But Juju elevates her game in the biggest moments, and they are helped out by the women's. The women's tournament is interesting in the way I love it. Like UConn, they're going to host the first 2 games. USC will host the first 2 games. Then it goes to neutral site, which I absolutely love. It's just tough to see anyone dethrone USC, and I'm talking California, not Carolina.
All right. I have to make notes here. So UNC and Drake on the men's side, we have to make a bet. Houston, and who did I have? UCLA, right?
Yep.
On the men's side. I think we got a bet here.
Okay.
I'm writing this down. George is with Juju. I'm with Paige. Everything you said about Juju, I feel the same way about Paige.
Yeah.
She has done everything in this women's game except win a natty. I think it's her time, brother.
Yeah.
I really do. Here's my Final Four. I'm with UCLA. I think both the men's and the women's team will make the Final Four this season. UConn, I will take them over SC. I know my man has Juju. I'm going to roll with Paige here. So those are 2 number 1 seeds. I got 1 more number 1 seed, South Carolina, although I will acknowledge this team is not as strong as last season. And then I'm going to number 3 seed. I'm going to go Notre Dame. I think that's the toughest region to come out of. They are just as good as anyone in this tournament.
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame comes out of that tough region. So that's my Final Four. And in the end, I got to roll with Paige Beckers, man. I also think, although as great of a player she is and she's due for a natty, I'm looking at Gino Auriemma as well.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, we're getting close towards a last stand for him, too. I don't know how much longer he's going to be coaching. I don't know, how many more championship teams potentially he has with the UConn Huskies. I think this is one of them. Paige is healthy, ready to go. In years past, that hasn't always been the case. Mm-hmm. I'm going UConn here. But no shock to anyone. Both of us like whoever wins that game. You're just taking SC.
Yeah.
I'm taking UConn.
Yeah.
But I think that feels general consensus that whoever wins that potential Elite Eight game could win this whole shebang-a-bang. And it sounds like we're on that path. Would I be shocked if Juju and the Trojans get it done? No. But I'm just going to roll with UConn here. I just believe in Gino. I believe in Paige. She's too great of a player, too decorative a player to never have a natty. I think she gets it done this year.
Yeah, and for Paige is their leading scorer, their leader in assist, initiates a whole offense, such a good, tough shot maker. And that's what shows up really big in these types of tournaments. Who has that player on the floor that just separates themselves above the rest? And Paige is that.
Yeah.
And just thinking of like,
Juju,
and Azzy Fudd can get going at
Yeah.
any point. Ashlyn Shade, underrated player, but really good shooter from 3-2. Like they have the layers. But that's the same thing with me of how it goes with Juju Watkins. If she just dominates the game on both ends of the floor. That's how good she is of a two-way player. Like Paige does everything right. But Juju Watkins, like far and away to me, is the best player in the country. And then everything we talk about, dude, just like we got to talk about South Carolina. They've lost like 2 games in the last 10 years is what it feels like. They just don't drop games. And yes, this team doesn't seem to have that like just electric offense we've seen in the past.
Yes.
But with Joyce Edwards and just what they can do to dominate around the rim in the paint, and it's Dawn Staley. Like, how can you bet against South Carolina too?
Well, I'm gonna bet against them, but it's I don't recommend
You're gonna wait.
it. Well, you know why? And you said it. It is another great South Carolina team. They just don't feel as dominant. But I tell you what, with that being said, George, if they mess around and win this, you almost have to put even more respect on Don Staley's name because
Yeah.
it's like no one is really thinking that this is a championship team, and then they could go out and do it.
To do what they've done the last few years, and for them not to be the number 1 overall seed, even though they're a 1, Don Staley's talking about that.
She is.
Hey, they don't think you're the best team in the
That's
country.
right. Yeah, it actually helped them.
What have you guys done?
Oh.
Doesn't matter.
Oh,
You're not the number 1. You're not the number 1 seed.
Oh.
You have a number 1, but you're not really the number 1. UCLA is the number 1.
is this not the best time of the year?
It is.
I feel like every show from now on, we should just sing One Shining Moment until this thing,
Hey, real quick,
until this thing's over.
whether you want a money line or not, Drake plus 6.5. Just saying.
Oh,
It was 5.5. It went up to 6.5. Get it now. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
You already bet it, didn't you?
Yale plus 7.5 too.
I don't know. They had a run last year. Are they going to do it again?
Yes.
Again?
Yes.
All right. Well,
Yale special.
as always, I'm going to go make some bets. Thanks to George Valecki, Travis Thomas. We always appreciate you for entering the chat with us. Till next time, when we enter it again. Peace. Enjoy the madness.
Later.